I have been advocating a common sense and voluntary approach to restrictions throughout this coronavirus pandemic, one where the public is trusted to make sensible decisions, because that's the only way a democratic society can function in the long term. So there's one way for us to end the current pingdemic, which has seen shops shut, supermarket aisles stripped, junior doctors forced off hospital wards en masse, petrol stations closed, transport routes stopped, and the armed forces worried about protecting the country. Ignore the app. A record 618,903 of us were pinged in England and Wales alone in the last 7 days. A record number that is beginning to cripple the country on a week we were meant to get our freedoms back. But as Government Minister Paul Scully correctly pointed out earlier this week, there is no legal requirement to isolate for 10 days if you're pinged by the app. The only legal requirement is if you're personally contacted by the government contact tracers. Here's a reminder of what he had to say.
But we are still living with COVID. It's not that you get to, like a film, you kill the COVID baddie and the end, roll credits. We're still learning to live with it. But I think it's important to understand the test and trace and the difference between test and trace and the pinging that a number of businesses have been facing. We want to give people the informed decisions to make the decision to keep them and their communities safe through the app. You legally have to isolate if you are contacted by the NHS in terms of contact tracing, yes, or if you're claiming self-isolation payments. But the app is there to allow you to make informed decisions. It should be there for the employer and employee to have those sort of conversations.
Correct. That makes absolute sense. Even though he was slapped down by number 10, that was a government minister giving us the facts. And look, there's a reason why the app is voluntary, because people are being pinged pointlessly for reasons like their neighbour testing positive or after going through a McDonald's drive-through. If you were concerned, perhaps use a lateral flow test to provide the reassurance. But for the sake of the country, if you don't have coronavirus, then there's no reason to be locked in your house. The government must immediately release a list of key workers exempt from the app and change its sensitivity before anyone with half a brain turns it off, just like I have. Great news that the leader of No Opposition, Keir Starmer, is finally looking like he might take a stand against a government position when it comes to COVID by considering opposing the introduction of vaccine passports. But obviously, because it's Keir Starmer and Labour, this comes with a dystopian freedom-destroying twist. Starmer wants everyone who enters a nightclub or a mass event to have one of those dastardly COVID tests instead. Vaccine passports are a disturbing development that would make the UK a papers-please society and put us on a path towards becoming a biosecurity state. Such a move must be resisted. But a society that forces you to put a cotton bud right up your nostrils before you can enter a nightclub is horrific too. We can't normalise these sorts of unnecessary impositions. Heroes come in many forms, and for years Eric Clapton has been a music hero, without doubt, among the best of British. But now he's a moral hero too, taking the sort of stand against vaccine passports that we need to see from more musicians and high-profile entertainers. In a statement released to his fans via Telegram, the singer, that's an app, by the way, rather than the old-school letter, Eric Clapton said, following the PM's announcement on Monday, the 19th of July 2021, I feel honour bound to make an announcement of my own. I wish to say that I will not perform on any stage where there is a discriminated audience present. Unless there is provision made for all people to attend, I reserve the right to cancel the show. Mr. Clapton, I salute you. I hope your peers follow suit. Shame on Australia and New Zealand for pulling out of the Rugby League World Cup. It was meant to be held throughout the UK in October, but the top two countries in the world when it comes to rugby league have quit, blaming our COVID response. I completely echo the view of Simon Johnson, chairman of the Rugby Football League, who branded the decision selfish, parochial and cowardly. He went on to say the Rugby League World Cup organisers have made considerable commitments at great expense, as has the British government, to do what they can to guarantee the safety of the athletes. I'm afraid the authorities in Australia and New Zealand have just not been prepared to accept those assurances. And that, of course, it is possible to postpone, but we've sold tickets. How do we explain to our fans that they will not see the Australia Rugby League team playing in Wales in October? This decision by Australia and New Zealand is completely political. A desperate bid by the leaders of both countries to keep convincing their unnecessarily terrified population that a zero COVID policy makes sense. It doesn't. Instead, it keeps them in COVID prison, shut off from the rest of the world forevermore. And by the way, they should get off their high horse when it comes to COVID management. Their vaccination rates are piss poor. Australia actually has the lowest in the OECD. Our programme has included the best rollout in the world and the creation of the Oxford AstraZeneca jab that will end up helping to protect much of the developing world. While Australia continues to lock down half their country because of a handful of cases a day of a virus that will not be eradicated for decades, we'll start to live again, including playing rugby league. Thank you very much.